I love Star Trek. Anyone who knows me in real life, or has streamed with me, or has even watched this channel, and any of my content will know right away how much influence Star Trek has on my creativity as a content creator. Heck, I found a way to conflate aspects of Star Trek with my other streams like my book discussions of the Wheel of Time. Having said that, it is also no secret that I have little to no love for New Trek. What is New Trek? Well, it's content calling itself Star Trek ever since the 2009 J.J. Abrams action vehicle. Okay, I admit that when the film came out, I liked it a lot, but at the same time, as a longtime Trek fan, I noticed certain things that were concerning. Like hearing Beastie Boys song Sabotage played by a young Kirk driving his stepdad's car off a cliff, in Iowa somehow. Also, the need to make the movie like Star Wars with at least one planet getting irreversibly destroyed, like Vulcan. Another thing was Spock being emotionally compromised was very annoying, despite the fact that Zachary Quinto's performance was pretty decent. I noticed more things in the sequels like Into Darkness when Uhura shushes Kirk while arguing with Spock on a dangerous away mission to Kronos, the Klingon homeworld, and dumb things like Cumberbatch being Khan and having a Genesis planet-level blood type that will bring anyone back to life. After the third film, Beyond, released, I found myself getting more bored by these films, unfortunately. But I went to see a 50th anniversary concert, this was 2016, with one of my good friends and a fellow Trek fan, Gary, who may or may not have been on this channel before, and it really made me emotional and rekindled my love for Star Trek at almost the same time. After a little over a decade, Star Trek was finally coming back to the small screen where I felt it should have been the whole time. I couldn't wait to see more traditional Star Trek episodes and see what new writers would learn from the previous shows and what new ideas could be brought to the table. Well, we got Star Trek Discovery, a supposed prequel to the original series that takes place in between the first pilot, The Cage, and the second pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before. The series looked wrong. The sets did not look or feel anything like what was already established in Star Trek in the 23rd century. Also, the inclusion of R-rated content, including graphic violence, and the cringe of dropping F-bombs.
This is so fucking cool.
It is fucking cool.
I still gave this show a chance until the finale of Season 2, where the series, in my opinion, took a complete nosedive and made little to no logical sense, and did not fit the Star Trek that I knew. I stopped watching as a result, and still have not watched Seasons 3 and 4 to this day. However, I was still not checked out as Star Trek Picard was announced by Patrick Stewart himself at a convention in 2018.
Is at the very center of what I have to tell you now. Jean-Luc Picard is back.
A trailer was dropped, and I honestly was excited by what I saw. I was like, maybe they will get this series right with some characters from the TNG era, and who knows the potential for world building of a new era the same way I felt going into The Force Awakens. Well, like the latter, there was minimal world building and a fundamental lack of progression for the legacy characters. Heck, Picard didn't even resemble a Star Trek show, let alone a good sci-fi show. The only thing I liked from Picard's debut was the opening musical theme by Jeff Russo, which was excellent, and the dream scene with Data on the Enterprise D in the beginning of the very first episode. After that, the show was a train wreck from bad dialogue, graphic violence which doesn't fit Trek at all, throwing out more F-bombs like this is an HBO show.
Sheer fucking hubris.
Shut the fuck up.
Cheeky fuckers.
I hate that fucking hospitality.
Somebody else could fight that fucking synth. Why does it have to be me?
Sorry, I had to fucking ruin it.
Have you fucked any of them?
I'm not their mother, asshole.
And murdering characters from previous Trek shows in a tasteless way. Heck, they had, spoiler alert, Picard euthanized Data bicentennial man style while also dying of that future disease from the TNG finale, All Good Things. They bring him back to life by explaining that his brain engrams or something was downloaded into a golem, and now he is a walking, talking, elderly robot android now. Also, there are these evil tentacled giant machines from another dimension bent on destroying all organics if androids and AI continue to be oppressed by said organics. Something Season 2 kinda forgot. I am going to assume the new season won't even touch upon any of this. Well, Season 1 destroyed any goodwill I had for New Trek, and have only watched a handful of episodes of Strange New Worlds out of sheer curiosity. But even that series, while a slight improvement, still cannot add up to the charm of the earlier shows that I loved. Picard Season 2, I only saw clips of Q and all the scenes that he was in, but I ultimately decided not to watch the season. And many, including, somehow, the critics and mainstream outlets, also say that Season 2 of Picard was trash, and mainly fell apart from episodes 4 to 10. You know, the Voyage Home rip-off time travel story. The first 3 episodes, which are considered the best of this poor season, were done by Terry Matalas, who was assistant to Brandon Braga during Star Trek Voyager's last 2 seasons, and continued on into Star Trek Enterprise, and heck, he even wrote 2 episodes of the latter's Season 3. I like Season 3 of Enterprise, and the 2 episodes he wrote were Impulse, the one where they find a Vulcan ship and have to fight Vulcan zombies while searching for the Xindi homeworld, and also the episode Stratagem, another excellent episode, where Captain Archer attempts to capture a Xindi weapons specialist, Degra, and attempts to deceive him and trick him into revealing the location of the Doomsday weapon that is meant to destroy all of Earth. In my opinion, Seasons 3 and 4 really redeem the first 2 seasons of Enterprise, and makes it a very fun series to watch. And these 2 that Matalas contributed were no exception to that enjoyment. Well, we find out that Terry was given the task of showrunning the 3rd and final season of Picard alone. What does that mean for the final season? I am sure many of you are familiar with Star Trek and entertainment commentator and imagination connoisseur, post-Geek Singularity, Robert Meyer Burnett. I've been listening to him for a while now, and all of his Star Trek streams are very entertaining and insightful. My lore expertise of Star Trek is small compared to his, and he has been heavily critical of New Trek from the very beginning with the first J.J. Abrams film all the way up to Strange New Worlds, which was mostly well received by some fans. Rob was blocked by Star Trek on Paramount Plus on Twitter, and has openly said fuck you on his streams to the producers of New Trek, which is antithetical to his image as a pretty upstanding and professional guy. He came out and has stated on several occasions on Twitter and on YouTube that he has seen Picard Season 3 times as of right now, and has praised it from start to finish.
And here's the thing. I've called it the Great Star Trek Hostage Crisis. Since 2009, Star Trek has been in the thralls of people that don't like it. There are people that took on the mantle of making Star Trek. When I watched Star Trek 09, I was shown 20 minutes of it about 4 or 5 months before the movie came out. This is J.J. Abrams' first Star Trek movie. I don't think I've ever been seething with as much anger in my life as I was walking out of that 20 minutes. I hated it so much. And then when the movie came out, I had to watch J.J. Abrams talk about on the interview circuit how he never liked Star Trek growing up. That he was a Star Trek guy, a Star Wars guy. So I have been very dismayed at what Star Trek has become. It's obviously my favorite franchise. I made a movie with William Shatner. I love Star Trek, and it's something that's been with me my whole life. Now, one of the things, and I hated Star Trek Picard seasons 1 and 2. And the thing was, I spent 3 years of my life making Next Generation documentaries that are, if you watch the Blu-rays, you buy the Blu-rays, we made Roger Lay and I for 3 years, the two of us, that's all we did was make documentaries for CBS about Star Trek The Next Generation. I sat down and I interviewed the entire cast for hours at a time. And I am very fond of all of those people. So when I saw, this is a very funny thing. So Terry Matalas, here's some backstory. So Terry Matalas, who is the sole showrunner of Star Trek Picard Season 3, began his career as an intern working in post-production on Deep Space Nine. Then he moved over and he became Brandon Braga's assistant on Voyager and Enterprise, and then went on with Brandon and worked on shows he created like Threshold. And then off on his own, he worked on shows like Nikita as a writer, which was a adaptation of La Femme Nikita. And then he became the co-showrunner and creator of the 12 Monkeys TV series that was based on the movie. And the movie was based on Chris Marker's 60s short La Jetée. And so what happened was, when he was brought into Star Trek on Picard Season 2, back on Star Trek, they had really decided what they were going to do. And he wrote a couple of episodes, but he didn't have any control over the shape of the show. It had already been decided by Alex Kurtzman, Akiva Goldsman, Michael Chabon. And they all left to go do other things. Akiva Goldsman went off to do Strange New Worlds. Akiva Goldsman had control over that. He left Picard behind him. Alex Kurtzman went on to do his pseudo sequel to The Man Who Fell to Earth. So Terry was basically given Star Trek Picard Season 3 because no one else wanted it, and he was told he can do anything he wanted. He was literally given carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. And one of the first things he did was he got rid of most of the cast of Picard that we'd seen in the first 2 seasons. The only one he retained was Raffi, because he had something he planned for her, which you'll see is very different than the role she'd been given. And then he's like, look, everybody, the show should have been this from the very beginning, but he went back and he got all the original cast of Next Generation to come back. And he got his writing staff from 12 Monkeys. If you haven't seen the 12 Monkeys show, it's really clever, I thought. He got his composer from 12 Monkeys. The music in Picard Season 3 is completely different. He got his DP, so even though the trailers look a little, people are saying it looks the same, it's a different looking show. It's much more cinematic. When you watch Picard Season 3, nothing about it after the first 10 minutes, because the first 10 minutes are at Chateau Picard and then we're off to the races. But it's a very different feeling show. The format is different. Everything about it's different. And you can tell when you watch the first episode, it feels like Star Trek. What Terry wanted to do was make a 10-hour Star Trek movie, because none of the Next Generation movies are very good. Even First Contact is lacking, even though Terry, that's his favorite. But it feels like, and I when I say this, I hope people take it in the spirit it's intended. It feels like Top Gun Maverick in the Star Trek universe, in the sense that all of these characters come back together. And I'll tell you, in the setup, like for instance, Picard hasn't seen Dr. Crusher in 20 years. Dr. Crusher has become Doctors Without Borders, and she's been working on the edge of Federation space, helping non-aligned worlds with pandemics, or it's almost like she's working in third world nations, bringing them medicine and supplies when they need it. She's basically become kind of a medical space pirate with this gentleman that she's working with. And all the characters, Worf he's working for an intelligence organization, you don't really know. And so it's all very intriguing, and it's like reading the characters are very disparate. I mean, they have to deal a little bit with what happened in Picard seasons 1 and 2, but in a way they openly mock it on a number of occasions. And when I watched this, the first time I watched this, I was like, huh. And it wasn't until I got the end of episode 4, the first 4 episodes are like its own arc. And it was so entertaining. And when it ends on a very Next Generation-esque note. And then when we got into episode 5, there's a conversation, somebody I didn't expect to ever see again comes back, and I'm like, oh my God. And there's a conversation that's one of my favorite conversations between any 2 characters in Star Trek ever. And it turns into it is not about Honey Bunny taking revenge. It's not a replay of Wrath of Khan. It's a much larger story, and it has undercurrents of real emotion and pathos. And I guarantee you, I'll make a bold prediction. There won't be a dry eye in the house at the beginning of episode 9, and no one dies in that episode. I'm just saying that I was blown away by it. Now, is it perfect? No, nothing is perfect. But it's such a change of any of the Star Trek that we've seen in the last 14 years. The bridge crew of the Discovery, I don't know them, I don't know their ranks, I don't know what they do. The bridge crew of the Titan A, you like all those people. You like all those people in the first couple of episodes. And it feels like a science fiction action adventure show. What Star Trek always was at its core. And I'll tell you something else. At the end of episode 4, when what's going on is going on, it's about really smart people really knowing their jobs. They're not crying about it. They're doing it because they're good at what they do. Because Star Trek is about the best of the best. And what Star Trek has turned into is a show about how mediocrity is what gets you to the final frontier. And Star Trek Discovery to me is the anti-Star Trek. Everything about that show is so wrong on so many levels. Star Trek Picard returns Star Trek to where it should be, about human beings and their alien friends striving to be the best they can be, and in the face of great adversity, and stepping up. And it's not about, if it's what you feel, it's okay. No. What you feel is going to get you killed. You know what's not going to get you killed? Really knowing how to do your job and working with other people that are really smart and know how to do their jobs. We have to put our emotions aside and get the job done. And that's what Star Trek to me was about. It was about being the best person, human being you can be, and finding the best people around you, the best of the best, to go out. And that's what you need to be on the final frontier. Otherwise, you will get killed. You will never survive. And Star Trek Picard is all about these people that are the best of the best coming back together and doing what they do best. And it was refreshing.
Rob has not backed down on his claim, since despite a lot of people being extremely skeptical about it, I honestly don't blame anyone who is skeptical, because the producers of New Trek have, in my opinion, devalued this franchise and made it part of the sea of generic sci-fi swill. With Rob on board, I hold out hope that this final Picard season will resemble a decent Star Trek story, but the trailer still has the typical look, Dutch angles, lens flares of previous New Trek with oh my god reveals from Data's brother Lore since they killed Data, and Professor Moriarty. Remember him? You know, Elementary Dare Data and Ship in a Bottle Moriarty, Hologram Moriarty. He is somehow involved, and we also have the villain, played by Christopher Plummer's daughter, Amanda. How is she connected? Well, I don't know, but we get to see the third final hurrah of the crew of the Next Generation, and I don't buy the speculation that there will be a season 4 of Picard. This will be it. Despite my disinterest in New Trek with Picard Season 1, and my disappointments in Discovery and Strange New Worlds, I'm going to break my own rules and cover this final season of Picard in the hopes that I will get some closure to Star Trek, and if it even resembles the earlier shows before Bad Robot and Secret Hideout, well, I'm going to need to see this for myself, and hopefully say goodbye to not only the characters of the Next Generation, but to the franchise itself, because honestly, I don't see much of a future for New Trek moving forward if they don't step up the writing and characters, which was what made Star Trek strong in the first place decades before this. I think Rob is genuine in his reaction, and I hope I get the same thing out of this season that he did, because Star Trek is probably one of the few franchises that has probably had the most emotional resonance with me, and seeing what has happened with it over the years has been heartbreaking, but really gave me a chance to grow up and learn that sometimes you need to let certain things go. I will always love the Star Trek of yesteryear and hope that this series will give the TNG crew and the franchise itself to me the send-off it deserves, because Star Trek has made me happy ever since I was a child. It has influenced my demeanor. Even now, decades later, it still continues to inspire me. To step up, to put myself out there, to better myself, and to be loyal to the people around me, and to be true to myself and to others. I hope you tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Am I a sweet summer child who is desperate for good Star Trek, or am I just simply off my rocker? Please share your thoughts and feelings on this. Disagreements are welcome. Other than that, everyone, take care and keep a lookout for after shows for Picard Season 3 the day after they drop. And stay Nerporial. live long and prosper, and see you on the next video.